how to study economics, because each subject or each major, they have their own structure. And we have to know the structure first. And based on the structure, we have to design our study strategy. Because in business or MBA, we have different structures, different types of textbook, different types of like study materials. So maybe we have completely different study strategy, different learning strategy. And economics, because it has like completely different structure than business or other department, we have to follow a specific kind of study strategy that maybe it will work for us, and maybe it will not work for other department or for other major. That's why I decided to talk first about how to study economics before going deeply into economics and specifically microeconomics. So let's talk about this one first, how to study economics. So there's a guy, he's the owner of Arsenal, the football club. He says that, Stan Kroenke, he says that economics is about creating win-win situation, but in sport, someone loses. Because like in economics, always we try to come to an equilibrium point, that everyone is happy, yeah? Everyone is satisfied. So mostly in economics, we are going to find like an equilibrium point. Even is partial, or is general, or is in a specific case, even it's between like consumer and producer. That's why this guy from Arsenal, the owner of Arsenal, he's a billionaire. He says economics is a win-win game because everyone should win. There should not be any loser. But in reality, maybe it not work. In reality, there are many losers. But by the way, in economics, we study to create some win-win situation. But maybe in other things, no. Because of that structure, because of that like nature of economics, we have to define a specific study strategy. Like when it comes to economics, most of the economic subject that consists of this 5 parts: theory, graphs, formula, derivation, proof, facts and figures, and logic. For each of them, we need to design a specific kind of a strategy. For example, when it comes to theory, like one of the basic theory in economics is the theory of demand. Is the theory of demand, theory of consumer, theory of producer, theory of market. So also, for example, in theory of demand, it says when the price of a product, the price of a goods or services or commodities increase, so we will buy less amount of that goods, that product. For example, if the price of this mouse increase, we try to find less amount of this mouse. Like when the price of orange fruit increase, we want to buy less amount of that one. If we keep price of other products or other substitute or complement goods fixed, so this is one of the things that we need to consider here. And also, mostly when it comes to like visualization, we try to visualize theory by graphs. Like we try to show how like the relationship between price and quantity can be visualized. To show when the price increase, then we consume less amount of that product, less amount of that goods. And also, when it comes to graph, then most of the economics want to prove that one by using some mathematical formula to show that when the price increase, then the demand for that product will increase, like creating an equation, creating a function. By using that function or that equation, we are trying to prove that this graph is true for this theory. Like this graph that shows the relationship between like quantity and price is true. For example, demand equation in consumer theory, we are thinking most about utility maximization. Then later on, we will talk about what is utility maximization. And also, the next thing that we have in economics, like facts and figures. Facts and figures shows the reality. That when we have these theories with this graph, with this formula, we will see how that formula, that theory or that graph will work in reality. For example, we find out some data from a company, from consumers, from a country, or from a statistic department that exactly shows when the price of orange increase, people will buy less amount of orange. And then we see the reaction of people with the price change of orange during like different months or different years. And we draw a figure for that to show the trend. For example, the trend of unemployment. Like when you go to the statistic department website or any country like World Bank or the central bank or the Minister of Tax, you can find out they provide data about unemployment trend. Like in 2000, there's like 3% unemployment, 4,000, 5%. Like 2006, there is like 3 to 6% in different rate. So then they visualize that one in a figure. So that unemployment rate is a fact and is in reality because it's based on the data from the real economic situation. Then they try to like visualize that one in figure to show the trend, is how it's changing. Is the unemployment rate is increasing or is the unemployment rate is decreasing? In different country situation is maybe it's different. Then they will analyze why the unemployment rate is increasing in a certain economic environment, in a certain country, in a certain society. So, for example, unemployment trend, inflation rate, interest rate over time, like the interest of people in education over time, how the rate of college dropout increase, how the rate of college like entrance change over time. So then they're going to visualize that fact. And finally, the most important things in economics is logic, is to say why. Like here we ask when the price increase, so the demand for that product will decrease. But the question is why? Because this theory just shows this is the theory. This is the situation when the price increase, the demand for that product will decrease. But when we think about why, we need to find the reason, we need to find the logic, we need to find the motive behind that theory that we have in theory of demand. So when it comes to study each of them, we need a different type of method. Like we cannot memorize the derivation or the proof. We need to know how to practice that one. So, and also in fact and figures, we cannot use the same method that we use for the theory. We cannot use the same method for the logic. Each of them, they may have different characteristics. Some textbook or some subject or some courses, maybe they will focus too much to theory. So we have to know that this course is theory-based course, and we have to find out this strategy. Some books is combination, or some courses is combination of all of them. We have to use that mixed strategy as we have in like matching pennies game. So that's why we have to find out what to do to read the best. For example, when it comes to theory, the most like best strategy is to use short note. Short note is different from short letter. Short note means we try to just write down the keywords for our like theory of demand. For example, we just make a shorthand note for ourselves to know it. Maybe but you use a shorthand note may be different from mine. But I'm used, it's different from someone else. So that's why maybe when it comes to theory of demand, in the theory of demand, we have two factors, which is price and quantity of demand. So instead of saying price, we just write down P. Like we can write down if the price increase, then the quantity of demand would decrease, other thing like fixed. So it depends how you visualize. For example, some people visualize the quantity of demand as a Q. Some people maybe use a short note of Y. It depends on how you can use. But mostly in textbook, they use for the quantity of demand Q. Q as a quantity of demand. So just P, Q, It's done. Show the relationship between P and Q. You don't need to like remember all the theory, which is 2-line text. Just with having 3 short like character, just P, Q, and there's an equal sign, you know the theory. But when it comes to graph, for example, indifference curve that we have in theory of consumer, which shows like the different combination of goods and services that provide exactly the same level of utility or happiness or satisfaction for the people. What kind of strategy we should use for this one is different from this. Also, when it comes to graph, for example, in theory of producer, we have Econ. Indifference curve shows the different combination of goods and services that consumer consume or use, but Econ shows the different combination of factors or inputs that produce exactly the same amount of output or the same quantity of output. But both of them are graph. But how we can use to show the different combination of x1 and x2 is to practice as much as we visualize, just in a notebook and whiteboard and your laptop, iPad, tablet. As we can practice more, because it's like something visualization, we have to visualize. Then when we practice more, it becomes like an image in our mind. So we have to, like when we think about, we should know, okay, when is this in x1, this is x2. When we increase x1, then we have to decrease x2. And when we increase x2, we have to decrease x1. So by this way, you just clearly know the direction of this curve in both cases. When it comes to like derivation, formula, and proof, like demand equation, utility maximization, the way that I use personally, which is more like effective, is to solve problems and questions as much as possible, to practice, to know the step-by-step how we can drive that. Because when it comes like a dry proof without solving question, maybe it's hard. Because when it comes to proof, like we assume in proof that there is like n types of goods and services that a consumer should consume. But in practical example, we assume that n is equal to 2. For example, we have only 2 goods. We have only 2 goods. For example, we have orange and banana. Just we have orange and banana. Although in reality, there is all different fruits. We can choose all of them. We can have orange, banana, apple, pomegranate, like we can have mango and many other things. But as much as we have like more types of goods or services in our consumption bundle, so it will become harder to understand. So we need to like simplify it with just having 2 goods and products. Then we can solve different questions, different problem set. By solving this different problem set in a simple way, then we can understand the logic, or we can understand the idea behind the complicated formula. Without knowing like the simple version of the formula, the simple version of the example or question, it's hard to know the very hard one, the difficult one. So that's why, like when it comes to derivation and formula and proof, I personally solve many problems. For example, in utility maximization, we have different types of utility function. Although the way is the same for all of them. Like maybe we use Lagrangian optimization to find out the optimum level of goods. But the thing is, if we want to know and remember that, we have to solve it in different situations because we have different types of utility function. So we have to like practice that one in CS utility function, which is constant elasticity utility function. We can solve it for like Cobb-Douglas utility function. We can solve it for linear utility function. We can solve it for quasi-linear utility function. We can solve it like for perfect complement utility function. So maybe even, and that way you may know that same formula may not work for different situations. For example, when it comes to perfect complement, goods, which is like a kind of utility, we cannot use Lagrangian multiplier. It's completely different things. Like in perfect substitute, also we use different types of different models. We should know in which situation, which derivation will work. Maybe in the classroom, professor will work for you just one type, which is utility maximization based on Lagrangian multiplier optimization. But when it comes to reality, you cannot use that formula or proof for different types of utility function. You have to know what kind of like a specific way I have to use for that. Because maybe when the professor brings some proof for that, it's just an example. You have to know many things by yourself. So that's why I personally solve many problem and question. When it comes to facts and figures, we have to know and we have to have this ability to list the different value. For example, when it comes to the unemployment trend in different years, for example, from 2015 to 2024, we should list it, year unemployment rate, year and unemployment rate. By having those numbers, visually you can see how is going the trend of unemployment rate. It's going to increase or it's going to have different fluctuation rate. And maybe if there is no figure, by those lists or number, we can like visualize, we can draw our own figure. Then by having the figure, we can analyze and interpret the trend. That's the useful strategy to learn the facts and figure. Then when we know, okay, the unemployment rate is increasing, specifically in some exact or a specific situation. For example, when it comes to unemployment rate between 2015 to 2024, we have very high unemployment rate between 2019 to 2021. Then we should interpret why. So one of the most like clear reason is COVID-19. We can say due to COVID-19, we experience like a high rate of unemployment rate that just skyrocketed, then again come down because of this problem. Like in 2008, there were many different economic problems. So we can refer that one to economic crisis. So when there is a fluctuation in our figure, we have to find a reason. We have to interpret that one. Why? What is the reason? Why unemployment rate is increasing? Why inflation is increasing? Or why interest rate is decreasing? For example, nowadays, why the Bitcoin has too many fluctuation. Increase, then tomorrow again come down a little bit, then again increase. So we have to know the reason. We have to interpret the reason. The last but not least is to study the logic, or to like clear the logic, to clarify the logic. Why does this situation exist in theory of demand? For example, one of the specific strategy that I use, I ask many questions of why from myself. One of the strategy which is called mind mapping. Mind mapping, it means we have to ask too many why questions to find out the root, the main cause. Find out the root or the main cause. For example, when we ask why the law of demand exists, that means why when price increase, the quantity of demand decrease. Then we can answer because it has or it change like the purchasing power of a person. Because before you needed less money to buy that product, now you need more. So it decreased the purchasing power. The next question, why the purchasing power decreased? You can say because of income effect and substitution effect in terms of economics. Income effect means now you have like less income or less ability in terms of income to buy that product. Substitution effect means you will buy less product of this specific good because if the other price is fixed. For example, let me clear with an example. You like orange and also apple, both of them, in your like consumption bundle as a fruit. Either you like orange or you like apple. So then suddenly the price of orange increase. Then what will we do? You will buy less amount of orange and more amount of apple because you like both and you like fruits. Then why more amount of apple, less amount of orange? Because now you cannot buy the same amount of orange as you bought before. It means it has an income effect. Now you have purchasing power decreased. And also the other things, why you buy less amount of orange, because now with that amount of money, because the price of apple doesn't change, only the price of orange change, you can buy more apple. And instead of paying more money for buying orange, you may buy more apple. So that's why it's a substitution effect. Due to the substitution effect, you buy less amount of that. Then again, another question, why substitution effect exists? Or why income effects exist? Then you can say, okay, substitution effects exist because I can easily substitute this product with another product, which maybe still I have the exact specific level of happiness that I had before. So that's why I substitute this one to this one. Now I substitute one orange like with one apple. And instead of buying now with that amount of money less orange, less than one, so I can buy one apple. Still I have the same utility, the same happiness, the same fulfillment, the same desire as I had before. So that's why substitution effect exists. Then again, another question may arise. Why the level of happiness is still like fixed? You may say, okay, because I have like a perfect substitute preference for these two goods. Maybe you can go to 5 whys. If there is still way, you can go further to find the root. When you find the root, at that time, even proof is much easier for you because you know the logic behind. When you know the logic behind, when there is a proof, everything is clear for you. But when you know the logic behind, there is just proof, there is just theory, it's difficult to remember forever or for long term. Okay, just we assume, okay, we have a sigma. Sigma is a production environment. But we don't know what's production environment, why it's called production environment. Or when we say, okay, price increase, quantity of demand decrease, but we don't know why, then, okay, maybe in something it makes sense. But when you don't know the root, the main cause, so it will be difficult to remember forever. So that's why I use mostly this different combination to study something. So maybe tomorrow I bring like a flip chart that I study with myself, and I mostly, when I study at class, when I go home, I use that one in the flip chart, mostly for every subject. For example, I just write all the course material that is specifically related to consumer theory in just one big flip chart. That's very easy because I visualize all this part in just one flip chart. And I don't need to just flip the paper. Okay, this one is the definition, this one is the proof, this one is like the logic. I can see all of them just in one paper. I put it on the wall, specifically 1 week or 2 weeks before the exam. When I go to my room, okay, I see, okay, this is the theory. Okay, this is the graph that shows the theory. This is the derivation of the theory. This is the fact and figure that specify this theory in reality because of there is like some statistic exists. Okay, then I know, yeah, this theory is real theory. It's not something imaginary, because in reality, in the market, we have that kind of situation. Then I go to the logic to find out the reason. Then everything can be clear in just flip chart. You don't need to flip too many papers. And when it comes to like close to exam, I just take a screenshot of that big flip chart and print it in one A4 paper. And when it comes to the exam, like when a professor teach, like assume 5 chapters. For 5 chapters, in the exam week, I have only 5 pages. I have only 5 pages. But in reality, when you like refer to textbook, maybe all the course material is like 200 pages. When you see 200 pages in the textbook, it makes it too much in stress. It's stressful. Okay, you have 3 days after exam, but you have 200 pages to study. Then at that time, my stress is too much though, because I have just 5 pages. Although in reality, it's big. It's 200 pages because I use a short note instead of like one paragraph. I just use 3 letters or 4 letters. As much as I go deeper, my short note is just decreasing. For example, when I make a short note in the beginning, maybe I write this one. Okay, when the price increase, as a result, the quantity of demand may decrease. When the other things is fixed, then the next step, I just write on price equal to like something which refers to as a result. Then the quantity of demand increase. Other things fixed, just FE or ceteris paribus, CETPAR. And the next step, what do? I just write on P equal to Q CP. I know CP is not cost and price. I know the CP is ceteris paribus, and the P is price, and the Q is quantity, because I practiced that one. First, I made a short note. Second, made a very like small short note, and I fit all the chapters in just one flip chart, and finally, in just one A4 page. And that's why this strategy works well for me. Maybe different for other people, but I share this way to like find out a specific strategy for studying economics. I use this one. Maybe if you use this one, you will get the most, because in different way you need different things. But so that's why one of the things that it makes for us hard to understand, because we don't know the reason why. If we know the reason why, then it's easy to prove as well. So that's why with ourselves, if there's no class, then at home or at our study room, we can practice the why behind the theory and proof as well. Then at that time, we will remember the proof. Is there any question? What strategy you use when you study? So actually, it's different. Maybe different people use different strategy. But for me specifically, when I don't know why, even I cannot memorize. Because mostly when it comes to study, at first, when I read the theory, okay, then I move to why. To know why is this one? Then at that time, the proof and derivation will be easier for me, and I easily understand what is going on here.
Yeah, you understand what are you doing?
Yeah, what I'm doing, because I know why. I know the reason. For example, when it comes to utility maximization, okay, we use Lagrangian, or we use like some terms like marginal rate of substitution, economic rate of substitution. When I know why I should use this formula, then it makes sense and easier for me to know the derivation.